Welcome to Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, an online show that is all about communicating the research taking place at NUST in efforts to promote the university's research agenda and the impact thereof.
Back at it. Yes, it is another episode of Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, live from NUST FM. Today in the house again, we got Miss K. Miss K, you're getting the hang of this, eh?
I definitely am, and I think it's getting funner as we go.
I think I like it, and I think it works. So sometimes it's Unda and Kuda, sometimes it's Miss K and Miss K. That works, yeah?
Absolutely.
Now joining us today in studio is Mr. Rian Uusizi. Rian is a lab technician in the Civil Mining and Process Engineering Department, particularly at the Materials Testing Institute. His research focus is on gravel roads, particularly understanding the relationship between riding quality and pavement performance using floating car data. That is a mouthful. But before we get to that, who is Rian and welcome? Who are you? Who is the man behind the quote? The coat, actually, because you were wearing a coat on the advert here. So who are you?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, listeners. NUST guys. I'm Rian Uusizi. That's it. I am me. I'm a civil engineer by profession. And I have, as you said, interest in pavement materials, most likely on gravel roads. We have almost 60% of all roads in Namibia to be gravel roads. And everybody is always complaining that, no, that gravel road is going to break my car. No, why can't it be like at the coast? At the coast is nice and smooth. And yeah, it's back that, and that's me now.
It's very interesting. But even before we get to that, I like the way you just dived right into the profession bit, eh? Take us back. Take us to the village.
Yes.
Is there a village? Take us all of that back to from where it all started and we are today.
Guys, should everybody always be from the village?
Yes.
Are you from Windhoek?
Is that an African thing though? No?
No.
From the city then?
I was actually born in Ondangwa, but I grew up in Grootfontein. So I'm kind of from Grootfontein, and that's where I went my high school, primary school and high school. We didn't have kindergartens that time because it's a small farm town, so you just do grade 1 twice, and then you're up and running. And then in 2009, I made my way to Windhoek. Yeah, that was a big change, and I think I can't go back to Grootfontein anymore. I have to stay in Windhoek until probably when I retire.
Oh, did you always know that engineering is the path for you?
I didn't know the definition of engineering. I just wanted to make stuff happen. I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to understand how these things work, how things are interconnected. That was my aim. So back then, if you told me that, no, today, can you fix this? I'll say yes, even if I can't, and I'll try and fix it. And then as you grow, you started heading to one side where it went to construction-related issues now, like maybe making clay houses, small clay cars, and so forth.
So that actually, as much as perhaps you didn't have the right wording for it, you didn't know what it was called, you didn't have the term engineering in your vocab at that time, but that in itself already speaks that you knew what you wanted to do. Your subconscious knew exactly, this is what I want to do, and this is how life led you to this path, and we're so here for it. Now, to just break it down a little bit, we touched on gravel roads and so forth. Why does it matter? What is it about? What do you do?
Well, this all started when I graduated. Funny enough, I had 2 offers at the same time. Yeah, one was for a construction company, one was for a consulting company, and I was like, which one do I take? Which one do I pick? And I'm so I decided, okay, let's go to the construction company. That's when I joined now NMC Construction. Funny enough, how I got that job is I was at a coffee shop and it was time for internship. And I met the current chairperson of NUST, Dr. Liaki. And he said, come here, talk to Tian. That time Tian was the should I say, manager for NMC.
Were you shy? Were you scared?
No, I just asked. I just had my CV. Yeah, I just had my CV on. I didn't even know he was in construction or something. And he said, talk to Tian, and Tian said, yeah, we're starting NMC. It's the side of Lillian Core. They, I think, had an office or something there at where the village market is. And then Tian said, okay, come along. And at the same time, I walked to the Ministry of Works office. Then they asked for the head engineer. I gave him my CV, and he's like, okay, we have a project, so we're going to call this consultant. Maybe he needs somebody. And funny enough, by the end of that week, I had both of these guys and then had to choose.
How did you choose? How did you know which one was best fit for you at that time?
Which one was more practical, which was the construction site. Yes. So you knew you were not going to be stuck up behind a desk. You were going to get it was always exciting to have that reflector vest on and a helmet on with those boots. Yes, because this time when you work at the construction site, the boots are provided. You don't need to buy them, and they were quite expensive last time. So, yeah, that's when I went in, and everything started with layer works. That time we included in a project at Mediclinic, when they're doing the expansion, and that's when you had to handle all this ground. Funny enough, I came to realize you have to buy, should I say, gravel, and they come in different types and quality, even if they look the same.
So we're talking about granite and all that stuff, or what is gravel?
Yeah.
What are the basics?
And I like that because so many times, and especially from a layman's perspective, when I get on a gravel road, at no point, I'm like, okay, maybe they straightened it out. Pardon me for sounding so blunt, but I'm like, oh, now that you said you have to buy it, that's very interesting because we only think of tar, right? I would assume okay, they're tarring this road, they had to procure it and so forth, but gravel, how does that work?
Well, gravel can be made or you can borrow it. We call borrowing, not like to go to somebody and ask something for use and giving it back, but more like borrowing, like digging a hole in the ground. And then you have to prepare it in a certain way. Sometimes you just have find sand, some is mixed with gravel, like stones, bigger kind of stones and all that. Some of these stones you have to crush. Some have different strengths, some have different colors, they behave differently. So all of that has to be characterized, and then you decide based on their performance where it can be best used, and also depending on the availability, where they are from. Because you might find that you have good material that's available, maybe it's say in Tsumeb, but you don't want to get gravel from Tsumeb all the way to Keetmanshoop. Yeah. So that's when the trade-off comes in place, and you come have a look and say, okay, what do I do with this, or what can I use this best for? And funny enough is farmers around Namibia have all of these in abundance, and it's actually a market that's growing. So certain people can say, we're just waiting for this road project to start. I'm going to sell off this mountain piece here, and then I'm going to get myself a new fence. And so that's where we got into. We started testing all this material, and you started seeing that they actually behave differently, even if they look the same.
Now, how does all of this tie in with research? What's the research element in the work that you do?
Well, currently our gravel roads are managed by the National Agency, the Roads Authority. And once in a while we'll say, this week the grader didn't come. They just graded it now. It looks good. But we have to understand what informs these decisions, why it should be graded or bladed as often, once, twice, 3 times a month. What informs these things? And all we can do is we can study how these gravel roads behave. Probably if 10 cars drive there, then you see, okay, it starts feeling a little bit rough. If 200 cars drive there, it starts getting even worse. So now this research wants to understand why this blading is done in this frequency, and is that the right way to do it?
Yeah.
And who informs who says what?
So in my village, they are building a tarred road.
But he just said he doesn't want to do village stuff.
I'm a village girl. Unfortunately or fortunately. So they're building a tarred road, and every now and then they water the gravel road. I don't understand. I feel like they're wasting water. They can just put the tar on top and we can move. Could you let me know?
First of all, let's ask, what village are you from?
I'm from Aminus, Khawabas on Maheke.
Okay.
Yes.
I love the way she says that so loud and proud.
All right. So basically, water acts kind of a lubricant to get these particles compacted, baked, because now you have loose material there. So on a gravel road, it sometimes is loose when it's just dumped there, and you want these to be compacted by the compactor now. We have big trucks that have rollers in front of them. Some of them have elephant foot and different kind of equipment attached either in the front or the back, and they compact this. So if you don't add water, number one, you have dust is a problem. And number two, you don't have that lubrication to get these big particles and the small ones in a confined space to get it most dense and packed. So the water just helps that. The same thing as like you're mixing concrete or something, you add a little bit of water just to mix it up a little bit. But that water eventually evaporates. So after 2-3 hours, it is dry again, but then you have it in its form that you want. Same goes if you are doing a clay pot or so. You take that little clay, you add water, you form it to the shape you want, and then you can bake it or fry it up, and then all the water evaporates, and then you have it in your form and a little bit stronger.
There's so much to learn. We've learned so much within the first half. We are joined in studio by Rian, it's Ms. K, and Kuda, and it's, of course, Research Matters. We head into a musical break. On the flip side, we'll be back on the flip side of Topa Latons Khan, and this is a request from our guest this morning. Rian, I hope you enjoy this one.
Okay, great. You know, I'm having so much fun, especially with the break right there. There's just so much discussion and everything that, what an interesting topic. Talking about topics and titles and so forth. Now, we know you're doing your Ph.D., yeah? What is it centered on? What are you passionate about?
Well, after my bachelor's, I dived more into pavements. My final year thesis was also on pavements. And then there was a little bit of a hiccup, all right? Funny enough is the qualification I did here at NUST did not have any continuation path. So with regards to research, I'm actually just starting off again. I had to do some remedial courses in South Africa that can bring my NQF level up to a path that I can enroll for a master's program. And then now that's out of the way. So we're back to where we left off, which is now pavements, and now we're going to do Pavement Management System. I was fortunate enough to find a gentleman who was actually just visiting our department, and he was like, are you not interested to your PhD with us? And I'm like, yeah, sure, but preferably on gravel roads. And he said, no, that's not a problem, because that's actually what we are looking into. Funny enough, he was on a trip here from Windhoek to Soosesvlei, and he had one of those horrible gravel road experience. And he was like, okay, so why not just concentrate on that road? I said, it's okay, because it's actually closer to Windhoek. I would have looked for other roads in the north, because that's where you have a little bit scarcity of materials. But this is, it's in my vicinity, and it is like serving more than, should I say, maybe 2,000 vehicles a week. Of course, there's so many tourists going to Soosesvlei now.
So we are not looking to make the gravel roads tar. We are in fact looking to improve the gravel roads, if I'm understanding you carefully.
Yes, correct. So what we have now is we have some little devices that we embedded in cars. So it measures your riding frequency. So as the car is driving over corrugation, we call the unevenness, and the sudden up and down movement corrugation. So there is a GSM and a GPS device in it that gives us an indication. If it's red, it's now very bad, and that also is indicated by the speed you'll be driving. So if you see we are having a speed of, like, let's say less than 10 kilometers per hour, then we know, okay, this road is really bad, this section. And then you'll pick up and you'll find somebody having a green indicator, then they'll be driving around, let's say, 80 kilometers an hour. Then you know, okay, this is good. And these are some of the indicators that we can use and say, you know what, Mr. Blader for Roads Authority, you don't need to go to this section. Concentrate on this one. This is where the problem is. Especially after the rainy season, you want all your bladers to be on the road. But some of the roads are still okay, you understand, if they have good drainage, they dried up or they didn't have much rain. And this can indicate if somebody drives there, we have a real life update and say, okay, this guy was driving 80, all of a sudden he stopped, and then he's back to 80 again. Yes, it can be maybe stopped a little bit to have a look at his map, or maybe to reorient himself, or they found maybe an animal that they have interested in to have a look or take photographs. But that G-force readings that we get, those give us an indication, okay, this is what happens.
It's actually quite interesting. You know, each time we have somebody in studio, there's literally never a dull moment. Your mind is opened up so much.
Absolutely.
You realize the things you can research on that, you can study that. Very exciting. Now talking, I'm going to bring you back a little bit. We did touch on the Materials Testing Institute that's based here at NUST. And I know you've definitely got a hand in that. Tell us, what is it that you test? Materials Testing Institute. What is it that you test? And do you also offer services beyond, like outside? In other words, is there any consultancy involved?
Well, the full name is actually Construction Materials Testing Institute.
Okay.
All right. This was established by collaboration between the German government and NUST, where they would want to assist Namibia in the transport sector. But to do all of this, with all the road projects that were being built, I think 12, 13 years ago, we needed a quality control person to come in, to be an independent guy to have a look and say, okay, the road that was built by contractor A and B is good and conforms to B, C, and D. Sometimes one project can have 3 or 4 contractors at the same time. And also at the same time, it linked to the degree that was implemented, like the Bachelor's of Civil Engineering, so that you can have not only capacitate Namibia in the skill, but also in the controlling part of it. So it's now controlling and monitoring all of these. So the Material Testing Institute, I would say, is still one of the most advanced materials labs in the country. We have some specialized equipment that other engineers can actually just dream of. But what we mainly do is we test material. Any kind of material that you need to construct anything, we test it. So this ranges now from metals. We do a small little bit of timber. We do the tar, which is now known as bitumen. We do cement, we do sand, we do stones, and we also test to some extent the water that you use. Yes. And we do some consultancy work. In the past, we had a project with the Ministry of Urban. If you walk around the area of Katutura, there's a Habitat Research Center. There's different kinds of houses, and we have tested different kind of technologies that we can use to build this. It's unfortunate we were not involved in the mass housing project, but it's something that I thought would be a good thing so as to try and come up with more sustainable solutions that are not, say, cheap, but readily available to a local person. Affordable, yes. And we have another project again with the Habitat is to see what the people, especially in the Himba people in Opuo, they use this cow dung to make their huts.
Yeah.
So we came in to bring them formworks to make bricks out of them. All right. So instead of just stacking the mud, like some pieces are thick, some are thin.
Let me tell you the story. So we grew up making houses like that, and we used to
go into the village.
Literally. So my grandmother would make us collect the cow dung from the kraal, and we would bring it back home, and she would make us make it soft with our feet. So they would put it in a barley, and we would step on it so that it then evens up and tries to make up one form. But obviously, it's difficult. There are lumps. Yes. The poop is not pooped on the same day. Yes. So stuff like that. But that's very interesting. The only thing I'm worried about is accessibility. The cow dung is there because of the cow. Yes. So how accessible will it be? So
as engineers, you have to make do with what's available. So the construction technology we use in Opuo will not be the same one in Ndangwa, will not be the same one in Keetmanshoop. So this specific case, for example, for Opuo, we try to take that cow dung. Instead of you now just stepping with your feet, you put it in a hand-operated mill, which is like a bicycle chain attached to it, and it just kind of cuts it a little bit into
Smoothes
fine
properly.
pieces, and you add a little bit of water, and you put it in a form, and you hit it with a stick. So when it dries up, you have a brick. So that later on, you have maybe 10,000 bricks, and you add a thin layer of water, and you stick the other brick on top of it, and then you have a house.
I'm happy with this. Actually, this is really nice. It's a great development from where we started, I must say.
It's actually preserving the
Exactly.
indigenous knowledge and the indigenous ways of doing things, but just making it a bit more.
Stylish.
And
I was not going to go
stronger.
for the word stylish,
I
but
think
something more
stronger.
convenient.
Yes.
For convenience and just merging those two worlds together. I think it's highly commendable.
Funny thing we found out is that the cow dung actually repels insects.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
It
what
does.
we
So
found
that's
out
why
here.
they're able
Yeah.
to set up homes anyway.
Yes.
You'll be fine.
So the only snag, or should I say, bad thing is it's when it rains too much.
Yeah.
Then it starts
Just goes down.
goes down. Yes,
Does it-
but
yeah.
we came up
So you
with
need to come up with a solution for that.
which is just a bigger roof.
So
Like-
that
There
it
you
can
go.
cover like this
Yes.
over the hut, and so that it doesn't touch.
Even some, should I say, shaded area next to the house. So those houses normally don't have windows.
Yeah.
So next to that door or that hut, you just extend the roof in such a way that you have a little aft duct that we say.
Yeah.
And then when it rains, the water barely gets that side. So then you have 3-4 years of cow dung bricks.
Usually what happens is they just also, to repair the broken stuff, they just get the cow dung again and just put it over and cover the patches.
and make it work.
It makes
You know,
it
now
works.
we've discussed so much, especially about the work that you do. Now, just a life question, Rian. How do you balance it all? Life, work. We didn't even touch on the fact that you're a farmer also. So how are you coping, you know, because with the studies, with work, with so much screaming for our attention in this modern day, in this modern world that we're in, what are your coping mechanisms?
I take it as it comes and try to have fun all the way. I was even shocked that I had a choice to pick 2 songs. And for me, Topalat Ons Khan is, if I don't play it now, when will I get time?
Yeah.
You understand? So if you get time, you do whatever makes you happy, but still you focus on the goal. If it's to be on radio, if to play my song, then everybody is happy. We do everything that way.
So in essence, if I'm getting you right, to take things in bite sizes, just in little bits and pieces, and make time for what is important.
Good pieces.
Take advantage of the opportunities that you get, even if it's just to listen to music, because you know that you're too busy. All right, as we near the end, talk to us about, we've spoken about the developments you've made in Opor, but at the end, what are some of the things you'd like your research to be able to do when it's all done and dusted? You know, what is something what is that impact you wish to make with your research?
Well, they always say the end justifies the means. So at the end of it all, if you come and see and say, this materialized and it's solving something, it might not be your original idea, but you might have twitched from 1 or 2 people. These days, inventions comes very hard, but if you come and say, okay, this was the problem, it's fixed, and somebody is happy, and you're like, oh, that's the issue. I have a small student, not a small, I have a previous student of mine. He's in Malawi. So he had a foundation problem, and we were discussing this on WhatsApp a little bit here and there, and we discussed how to possibly go around it, because we didn't find literature on that. And then, funny enough, he tried it out, and last week he sent me a WhatsApp video that it's actually working, and such things, it's like what keeps you going and say, I've solved something, not in Nigeria, but in Malawi.
I've done it.
Across the border.
But with that said, we've come to the end of Research Matters this morning with Unda and Kuda. Right, follow our research, innovation and partnership at NUST pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as NUST FM on Facebook and Instagram. And our podcasts are now available on a NUST YouTube page, so you can check that out as well. But in the meantime, Rian also requested for another song, Adiwele. It's not Friday yet, but we have arrived.